Hello everyone, it is Monday night, it is 8 o'clock and it is time for episode 74 of Wilson Waffling Live. Run titles. Yes, it's Wilson Waffling Live. Yes, we are here. Well, I'm here just, you know, I've got a confession to make. I've got a serious confession to make because, don't tell anybody, I was playing Overwatch. I was actually playing I'm just moving my microphone over a bit. I was playing Overwatch on Twitch. And so I do apologise if I'm a few minutes late, but I made it in by the skin of my teeth, I think. I made it. So welcome to episode 74. 74 of Wilson Waffling Live. Would you believe it? I say this every week, but 74. 74. It's just, I can't believe it. I remember the first one. The first ever Wilson Waffling Live was when I was actually, what was I doing? I was telling elephant jokes for viewers, and every time a viewer came on, I actually told an elephant joke, and it was actually using a piece of software called, would you believe it was called Justin TV, I think it was called, and it's no longer here. It's no longer here. And then I went to Ustream for a while, and now that YouTube does it, I can live broadcast straight to YouTube. But I must admit, it still says on the webpage beta. So I don't know. I could also stream it straight to Twitch. Okay, but I don't know whether or not this is the right show for Twitch. I do my radio show to there, and when I'm gaming, playing Overwatch or Star Wars, then I stream to there. But I don't know. I think this is probably safer on YouTube. And the nice thing is, it records the show for me. It records the show for me, and then I just can publish it, which is fantastic. Talking about thumbs up like this, let's go on to the wonderful news, because if you remember, I like to set myself a target every week. I like to set myself a target, and last time, I asked for 12 views and 2 likes, and I got 26 views, yay! But only 1 like. So I thought, right, for this week we'll change it. We'll go for 15 views, so up 3. And 2 likes still. I thought we'd keep with that 2 likes. And I am so chuffed to tell you that we ended up with 30 views. Fantastic, guys. Thank you. And 3 thumbs up, 3 likes. Yay! Absolutely wonderful. If I had my sound effects here, I would play a round of applause, but I don't. I'll need to get that sorted for next week. Let's see if I can get that sorted. If there's going to be next week, because I have to decide yet. So yeah, I like to set that, like I say, I like to set myself a target every week. And so I think what we're going to do, I'm going to set myself, I just noticed my water bottle's in the shot. We don't want that in. Don't want water bottle in the shot. So I've decided that what I'm going to do is set myself another target next week for next week's video. But I don't know whether or not I should continue Wilson Waffling Live right through the summer, or whether or not I should stop it. So I'm a bit in a quandary. And tweets of the week, which is coming up, I'll tell you the problem with it as we get there. So if you are watching this live, then thank you. Remember, the chat is open. And you can, by all means, say anything that you want in the chat, and I can relay it to the live stream here. Alternatively, if you're watching or listening to this recording, then make sure you can either interact with me by using my Twitter, which is coming up any second now. Here it comes, which you can do using iWilsonYSJ, or you can use the hashtag YSJPrimeEd if you don't want to follow me, but I don't see why not, because I'm quite nice and I tweet nice things, honest, puppy dog eyes. So yeah, so you can do that, or alternatively you can go down below to the comments and stick a comment down there and say how much you like the show, etc. So what have we got in store for tonight's show? Well, we got the tweets of the week, which I'm coming up, and this is when I pick certain highlights from the week that have appeared on my Twitter feed, and I can share them with you. We then have the website roundup, which is a roundup of all the news stories that have been in the on the internet this week. We then got teacher tidbits, when I share with you some teaching ideas, and of course you can always find those on the Waffling forums on wilsonwaffling.co.uk. And then finally, we have Ask Waffling Wilson. And this is when you send me questions and I look at my app down here and I have a look at them and I answer them live. That's often, that is often the worrying part of the show, because I never know what's going to come up at all. So if you are watching this video and the recording, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That would be fantastic. And give it a thumbs up. Give me more than 3 likes. I'm going for 3 likes and 20 views this week. 20 views and 3 likes. So let's see how we get on. So to start off with, we're going to start off with the SOSA, or the soda. So when I was teaching every morning, when the children came in from outside in the morning before we started the lesson, we had something known as the start of day activity. And the start of day activity soda was something that, to get their thinking skills going, to get their minds going, and sort of like give them something to do as they settled down and the rest of the children came in. And I like to do a soda with you at the start of the show. So we have a start of show activity, but by all means go and use this in your everyday teaching. And if you do, then let me know how it goes on. That'd be fantastic. So the question for today's SOSA or soda is, who would you reward? Okay, so last weekend on Saturday and Sunday, the Queen celebrated her 90th birthday. And with that came the Queen's Birthdays Honours List of 2016, if you remember. Now, I don't know if you saw it, but Tim Peake got one and Rod Stewart got one, and they both featured on the list. And so the soda or the SOSA is quite simple. Which 3 people, and I would say this to the children, which 3 people that you know would you give an award to? Okay, and what would that reward be? So 3 people that you would give a reward to, or, you know, a certificate or whatever, but what would those 3 people be? And you can, if you'd like to, you can start by looking at the people on the honours list and sort of like saying, why do you think they got it, etc., etc. Now, you can be clever with this, and you can just say 3 random people. Or you could say 1 famous person, 1 person from the school, and 1 person that they know, and do it like that. Now, alternatively, if you want to spread it over 2 days, then what you can do is that on one day, especially with older children, year 5, 6, is extend this activity slightly and make it twofold. And initially ask them on the first day for their comments on the people who actually got the reward, the honours list. You know, so why do they think Tim Peake should have got it, etc., etc., and get into some kind of discussion. And then the next day they can go on to their own, and they can do their own honours list. So that was my start of the day activity for you, and we're going to move straight on to the wonderful tweet of the week. Now, that was a bit of a delay, wasn't it? I don't know what went on there. I must tell you this. Sorry, we'll just have an interlude. We'll just have an interlude while I talk. I was doing my radio show, wilsonwafflingradio.co.uk, and it was a snuggle show last night. And it just fell to bits. Honestly, it fell to bits. I couldn't broadcast, nothing, and some of my friends, when my brother were online saying, just give him some time, he's trying to sort it out. I was in a hot sweat, my heart had palpitations. It was a nightmare. I got it going in the end, but it was sort of like 15 to 20 minutes. I must admit, when I was doing tonight, I just thought, please work, just stream. That's all I ask you to do, just stream normally, and I would be over the moon. And luckily, it has happened, which is good. Right, tweets of the week. Now, we have a bit of a problem with tweets of the week at the moment, because a lot of people, the first years are at school, the second and third years have left. And so the Twitter timeline is rather quiet. So this would probably be a slow show because, or a short show because because there's not a lot of tweets. I've managed to grab some, so we'll see how we go. And one of them's from me. That's how quiet we are. But so I don't know whether or not next week we'll still have the tweets of the week. We will see. I could go on to Facebook and do Facebook of the week because there's lots of students posting their holiday snaps, which I could do. So anyway, here's tweets of the week. So first things first. There it goes. There we go. So first things first, this is one that I published, and this was retweeting from Miss E. Williams. And as you can see what it is, and it's quite clever this, it's actually superhero hands. And what they've done is that they've painted the hands and sort of like printed it and then used it as a sort of hand right the way out at the front to sort of like do a superhero sort of like pose with it, which I thought was a fantastic day. And it's all ready for Superhero Day on Thursday, and I think that was last Thursday, but I thought that was fantastic. And I didn't know, did anybody else do Superhero Day? And didn't tell me. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of students out on placement, and here we are. This is Amy, and she is busy printing out creepy crawlies for lessons. So you can see even when they're at home, the first year students are working hard. So if you're thinking about being a teacher and joining the YSJ initial teacher education, then remember it's hard work both in and out of university. Don't think just because you're on placement you're going to put your feet up for a while. It's probably one of the most hardest parts of the job, so be warned. Also this week I teach mathematics, science and computing at YSJ. And the maths results went out. And we had some very happy people. Here's Nicole. So happy with my maths result. Great end to the week. Now, remember, the reason she probably got a really good mark is that because she put a lot of effort in. And we don't just give them away. You need to work hard. To get those marks. Now, I did mention right at the beginning that this week's tweet of the week would be rather short, and that's it. Oh, but don't worry, it means it'll just be a shorter show. I got it right that time, which is absolutely fine. Remember, if you would like to tweet anything, say, for example, perhaps you've already got a place at YSJ and you're studying hard for your A-levels, then why not tweet us? And tweet us to, the hashtag is just, hang on, let me get the right one up. The Twitter come in a second. Get rid of that one. Come on. There we go. The hashtag is down here. Can you see it? Just there. YSJ Prime Ed there. So if you're studying for your A-levels and you're revising hard and you think things are going well, and you're hoping to come to YSJ to do initial education, teacher education, then why not tweet us? Why not put that hashtag in and then we can get to know each other over Twitter before you actually arrive. And don't forget, on the actual A-level results day, hopefully we're going to have a live radio broadcast, which should be good, that you can actually tweet in your dedications and your parents can say, congratulations, so-and-so. And we'll have some really good music as well. So don't forget to tune in. That would be fantastic. So with that over and done with, let's move on to... Can you guess? I can. It's the website roundup. There's definitely a big pause as I come in, but never mind. We're there. Hello and welcome to this week's website roundup. Now remember, we do this slightly different now because beforehand it was all pre-recorded. Now you get me live. So think about that. So let me make sure that we're going round. Yes, here we go. So, when you're training to teach, it is essential that you have the required amount of knowledge in order to teach the subject correctly, as well as having very deep understanding of the pedagogy which supports each subject. So the Education Select Committee heard last week that some teachers are beginning their careers in primary school with as little as a few hours training in subjects, and that continuous professional development, CPD, is vital. It was reported that in the majority of schools, the CPD time is taken up with looking at new requirements and curriculum shifts rather than subject-specific areas. Within ITE, Initial Teacher Education, some subjects have previously mentioned only have 3 hours of input, for example, PE. Now, Professor Jane Courtney of the Deans of Education Network at the higher education think tank Million Plus commented that you can train someone to rewire a plug. It's not quite so easy to train someone how to teach the concept of probability and what that looks like at age 5 to 18 and unpack it all. The government's response to this, of course, focused not on the actual subject knowledge, but on their proposal for their replacement of QTS with a stronger accreditation system to raise the bar for new teachers. Okay, so for me, there are a number of routes into teaching. I work with the undergrads on a 3-year program teaching mathematics, science and computing. In the first 2 years, we have 36 hours of training each year with additional subjects audits as well at the beginning of the year. There is also the QTS skill test for mathematics. I agree it is important with the current research linked to teaching that CPD is best time for this, although there needs to be a reduction in the changes by the government in order to let this happen. As for the changes within the new QTS system, it seems to me that the government is again trying to implement a testing regime rather than looking at changes within the actual process which is needed. I also do consider there is some responsibility on people who are training to be teachers as well. If you don't have the subject knowledge, then grab those GCSE books and the Key Stage 1-2 revision guides for the subject and get to it. Next picture. Meow. When I was teaching in primary school, one of my roles was leading teacher in intervention and gifted and talented coordinator. This week, the BBC Education website reported that Ofsted said that thousands of bright pupils, especially those from poor backgrounds, are still being denied the chance to fulfil their potential. The report was mainly based on secondary school level of their education, although it should be recognised that there are ways of identifying and supporting the, and I hate the word, bright children within primary schools, especially those from poor homes who may be entitled to pupil premium. Unfortunately, his answer, the Chief Ofsted Inspector this was, unfortunately his answer to supporting these children at secondary schools is to re-implement the national test at age 14. What is it with the people's fixation on testing? Lucy Powell, the Shadow Education Secretary, commented that the current government has caused chaos in primary testing and abolished the hardest test. They are narrowing the curriculum and putting more and more focus on the increasingly narrow set of measures for schools, and they've caused a crisis in teacher recruitment. For me, the best response came from Michael Trobe, the Interim General Secretary of the Association of School and College Leaders. He stated that subjecting the children to even more testings and schools to even more sanctions is not the answer to every challenge. Hear, hear, Malcolm. What is with all this testing? I agree with Malcolm so much here. Every time there is a concern identified, it appears that the initial response is to test the children further or to impose sanctions to schools. It is about time the government starts to look at other methods to tackle issues within schools, instead of just putting the easiest and definitely the most ineffective system in place. I guess it was also should be seen as the cheapest option. So last week in the website roundup, I shared with you a story which stated that children in England were struggling to support the 1.1 1 million pupils with special educational needs or disabilities within Main Street classroom. This week, using the same graphic, I notice, we get some more. Get some more BBC. They reported that plans to shake up the educational needs funding could see special units in Main Street schools closed, according to the teaching unions. The National Association of Head Teachers, from its report, Getting It Right, funding pupils with complex needs, said that reducing the per-place funding for such units from $10,000 to $6,000 a year would be disastrous. The proposals do not address the so-called top-up funding for children with very complex needs, where there is a big difference in funding. This could actually mean the difference between authorities, which could be the difference between about £18,000. Tim Johnson, the president of the National Association of Head Teachers and principals of Bradfield Specialist SEN Academy, says, "Those of us who are passionate about education of children with high complex needs have been pressing for the review of these high needs funding for some time. We desperately need a new approach that creates greater consistency and transparency." Definitions of differentiation, this is my bit, includes the phrase, the best chance for every child to learn. Education should reflect this. Every child should have the best chance of learning. As practitioners, we are all passionate about providing this, although sometimes, unfortunately, it comes down to money and funding. Which, with ever-shrinking budgets, it is disastrous that the children's education and future possibilities for life are being impacted on by money and changes in funding. It would appear that Ofsted are featured quite a lot in this week's website roundup, especially since the next two stories are about them as well. So Michael Wilmshaw, Chief Inspector of Schools, will be handing over to his successor at the end of the year. He has always been outspoken, especially against the government and the teachers and everybody. He has continued this week by providing a stark warning which states that the government should not be allowed to undermine Ofsted. He expressed concerns about the future of the organisation, warning that it should not become a plaything of the government. There has been comments which state that Ofsted is no longer needed and that regional leads and data could do the job of the organisation. But Wilshaw has stated that Ofsted is vital to the efforts to raise standards in schools, and he has called for his successor to continue to tell truth to the power, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. I don't have much to say about this story, apart from that it would appear that the groups of people who are pretending to lead schools and mould the future of schools are often at loggerheads with each other. It reminds me of engaging with the two children after a playtime instance has taken place and asking them both kindly but firmly to tell the truth. Ooh, change picture. Oh, here we go. Guess who? Okay, talking about Ofsted, still with Sir Michael Wilmshaw, coming to the end of his role at the end of the year, the new Chief Ofsted Inspector has been announced, Amanda Spielman. I'm not sure if she's Nicky Morgan's best friend, although Nicky has chosen her. Amanda is currently Chair of Exams Regulator of Ofcol and has been chosen for her experience in the education sector. Wait for it. She has been a practitioner for several decades and understands what it means to be a teacher and work in a number of schools across the country. Oh, hang on a minute. Wait. Let me just read that again. Oh, she's never been a teacher. No. As you can imagine, the response from the teaching unions has been similar. Kevin Courtney, acting General Secretary for the NUT, said, to have as a new Chief Inspector of Ofsted, a person who has no teaching experience and who is heavily implicated in the academy programme certainly does call into question both her suitability and her impartiality for the job. This was mirrored by the Association of Teachers and Lecturers, highlighting that Miss Spielman has never taught, has never led a school or a major public institution. And as a chair of Ofcol, she has presiding over qualification chaos in secondary schools. There is no need, of course, for me to report that Nicky is very pleased to have her friend, new lapdog, Chief Inspector, to work alongside with. I wonder if Nicky got Michael a leaving present. What do you think? Even more so, what will she write on his leaving card? Ofsted judges your term of office to be less than satisfactory. And finally, here is a quick guide from the Free Technology for Teachers website. While he is working across the USA, he is sharing previous posts with us. And this week is a guide to the Google Books for students and teachers, the best of 2015 to 2016 school year. Enjoy, guys. You can find the links of all these articles can be found on wilsonwaffling.co.uk in episode 74 of this waffle. And that concludes this week's website roundup. I thought I'd get in quick before it finishes. Oh, how are we doing? How are we doing? Are we all still with me? You're still with me on this marathon, which is Wilson Waffling Live. So the next bit is going to be the teacher tidbits. Wilson Waffling does teaching. And this is when I share with you some ideas that you can go off and actually use in school. And remember, all these ideas actually features on the Waffling forums at wilsonwaffling.co.uk. So if you miss any of it, nip along there and you can see it. And also remember, if you are watching this on the recorded on YouTube, then don't forget I'm actually going for 20 views and 3 likes. 20 views and 3 likes. So pressing that like button. Just do it now. Just go down and do it now. Fantastic. Okay then. So also down in below you'll see a link to wilsonwaffling.co.uk. So straight to this area so you can see all the information. So, with summer virtually here, it's important to get out and about throughout the week with children, and school trips can be expensive but very worthwhile. But sometimes you don't need to travel that far to extend the children's education. I wrote a waffle about a week at work that we used to engage the children in when we used to encourage them to be familiar with the usual things like identifying birds and animals and flowers and things like that. And it was interesting that before that we noticed that children didn't know what an oak tree looked like or didn't know the difference between a sparrow and a blackbird. So we all picked something and I chose birds. So here are my 3 activities that I would do with birds. Right, bird bingo. At the start of the topic, there was like a mental laws types activity involving common birds. These were essentially, what do you know? Okay, so what do you know about birds? And using the smart software and images of birds, I would put images up on the board and up on the screen, and the children would ask to identify them. And this was like a cold assessment. And then what we did is that we went on a trip to the local university where we allowed the children to see water birds and birds over the moorlands there and town and garden birds and countryside birds such as magpies and crows and everything like that. And we went there and we sort of like looked at them through our binoculars. We took binoculars and everything like that. It was really cool. Now, to start off with, the children were, shall we say, creative with their responses. So the first picture that came up was a blackbird, and the children also said blackbird. It was actually a blackbird, but it was actually a crow, but they said it was a blackbird. And then after that one, we came the blackbird, and they said Mrs. Blackbird because it was smaller. Okay, so I did have to, just to warn you, I did have to have a talk about the tit family, like, like blue tits and great tits and cold tits, because I did use the word, and one of the children said, "You can't use that word, Mr. Wilson," so forth and so on. Anyway, we did it at the beginning, we went out and looked at the birds, and then we did it at the end, and it was surprising how many children actually improved. Okay, label the bird. Within my offers, especially in mathematics, I often talk about the importance of vocabulary in mathematics, but in teaching generally. And this topic was no exception. And knowing the terminology for the different parts of the bird would be really important for identification. So following the day's activity was based on looking at parts of the bird. So things like wing, beak, head, but also terms like rump and wing bar, especially for identification. So I could say to the children, look, you can see the white wing bar there, so forth, so on, that wood pigeon, so forth and so on. This activity was also completed with drawing and labeling a bird, which, okay, so that was really good. And then looking at real life images of bird to identify it. And then finally, and this was one, I did lots of activities, but I just picked you 3. This was one of my favorite activities. It was called How Clever Are Birds? Okay. And what we did with this is that when I suggested that we go do birds, a lot of people said, oh, no, not birds. They're boring. They're stupid. They've got small brains. So what I thought I'd do is that, right, this is what we're going to do. I actually got the children to go outside. We went outside and we say, right, we're going to build some nests today. We're going to build some nests today. And they got really excited. And I said, right, off you go. You've got 30 seconds to fly off round the school grounds to get anything that you want to build your nest with. So off they went a lot. They wanted to pick things up. It was all over the place. And then they came back and I gave them a piece of card and they put all the stuff in. And I said, right. You are now have to build your own nest. But I said, you're only allowed to use the following things. You're allowed to use one finger of one hand because that's like the foot, its spare foot, and a pair of tweezers because that would be your beak. And then they had to actually do that and try to build a nest. Well, you can imagine the hilarity, but also there was some good results. Some of them ended up just sort of like shoveling them all into a nice pile, which was fine. We did go around, myself and the TA, and tried to pick them up eventually, which was okay. So it was really good. Okay, and I do remember saying to the children, so do you think birds are that stupid? And they say, no, probably not. So those are 3 activities that you could use in school with the children about birds. And remember, if you'd like to read the whole waffle, then or listen to it because it is recorded, then just search for the keyword nature. Ow, just hit my knuckle on the desk. Search for the word nature on wilsonwaffling.co.uk. Now, we are zooming through things tonight because we had a small tweet of the week. So we are now going to move on to my favourite part of the show, Ask Waffling Wilson.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is...
Ask Waffling Wilson.
Please note, the new number is...
Ask Waffling Wilson.
Hello?
Hello. So, do you know, what is that one? Oh, yes, this is the web page if you're interested. This is the web page if you want to go. In you comes, look. Oh, yes, it says Wilson Waffling. I need to fix that. So there you go. Now, also remember that if you do want to listen to my radio station, because I've mentioned it a couple of times, and this it is, wilsonwafflingradio.co.uk. Have a look at that. So let's go back to Ask Waffling Wilson. So let me have a look at the questions today. One of these days, it's going to be really worrying because normally I get 1 or 2. I've already got 1 today, but sometimes I have like 2. And one of these days it's going to be really worrying because I'm going to have about 8 or something like that. I doubt it, but anyway. Choose. Burn the top of your mouth or get a paper cut on your... Ouch! On your finger. What would you prefer to do? Burn the top of my mouth or paper cut. Oh, now, I hate both of them. But the one that I'm definitely going to go for, is I'm going to go for paper cut on finger. Now, hang on. I'll tell you why. It's because if I got a paper cut, I could put a plaster over it and protect it. If you burn the roof of your mouth, that's it. You can't do anything. And all you do a lot of time go like this with your tongue, isn't it? That's all you end up doing with it. So definitely paper cut on the finger, and I'll put a plaster over it and it'll make me feel better. Right, guys, that has been... Thank you to the person who's been watching us live. It could be me, but maybe it's somebody else. But thank you very much for coming along. That's the end of Wilson Waffling Live for tonight, episode 74. I know it's been a short show. It's only been 34 minutes. Well, 36 by the time I finish yattering, waffling. But remember, please remember, I'm going to go for 20 likes. 20 likes. No, 20 views and 5 likes. So let's see whether or not I can do. Don't forget, you can always subscribe to me. That would be absolutely fantastic. You can go along to wilsonwaffling.co.uk and see all my information there. And you can keep up to date with me on Twitter by following me at iWilsonYSJ. And next week will be 75, and I will decide whether or not I'm going to do it or whether or not we're going to have a break for the summer. So I'll keep moving forward. We might just have a break for the summer and then come back later on. So have fun, guys. Let me just do this because otherwise I'll forget. Have fun, guys, and I will catch you all later. And until I do, just consider yourself waffled, will you? Have fun, guys. Bye. Off it goes, and on it comes.
Wilson Waffling.